I will be speaking about today about the stakes that test takers and people being tested on their language competence have. The previous two speakers this afternoon have been talking a lot about what counts as native. I will be talking more about what happens when these people's language is not considered good enough, native enough, if it doesn't measure up to any kind of arbitrary standard. I will be talking primarily about very high-stake situations where there are dire material and legal consequences for not passing this kind of test, be it an informal test or a very kind of formal state-administered test of language competency. The perspective from Germany, language and citizenship. I myself am from Austria, not from Germany, but Germany is the area of my research. Some of you might know that there are complex linguistic questions regarding the German languages spoken in Germany and in Austria or in the southern German parts. There's a lot of conflict, and indeed you have all had to bear Austrian accents, in fact, an Austrian accent these past few years because our governor is from Austria. I wonder how intelligible he is, if he would pass any kind of requisite test for teachers in Arizona, but he definitely can get elected governor of California. I like to think that my accent is a little more intelligible than his. Nevertheless, to share two personal anecdotes, one of our speakers this morning on the panel shared some of her comments that she got on student evaluations. And when I was teaching German 1 at UCLA here a few years ago, one of my students in German 1, a student who doesn't really know enough yet to make these kind of judgments, wrote, I worry about her southern German accent, and I wonder if I'm learning the proper German. Oh, gosh. It was not really anxiety producing, it was kind of funny. My competency in language was questioned not only in German though, but also in English, because before I taught German here at UCLA, I taught composition in the comparative literature department, and although I had a passport at the time, a US American passport, I had to take the test that our panel this morning spoke about for foreign TAs. And that was, not that I thought that I would not pass the test or something, but still an added degree of anxiety every time you're tested on something. Let's return to the topic. What I would like to do is give you just a brief overview of the sense of national identity in Germany and the role that language plays in German national identity. In the US, language is most often conceptualized as a civic virtue. It's a civic concept of language. In German culture, language is very intimately tied up with ethnicity and with what it means to be a real German. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Germany is a very late comer to national political paradigms, to the nation state. In fact, the first nation state was founded in 1871 only. However, even before that, we speak of Germany, even though there was no official category, no political entity that was called Germany. A cultural unity existed long before a political unity existed, and the fact that there was a common German language played a very large and exaggerated role, actually, in conceptualizing this national identity. Germany has, for the longest part of its history, been a source of outmigration, to a large extent to the US from the 18th century and onwards. According to one of the latest studies, about 17% of US Americans trace their descent to some German. Germany itself has not so much, or at least in the popular conception, been a destination for immigrants and for immigration. And in fact, the slogan, Deutschland ist kein Einwanderungsland, Germany is not a immigration destination, is a slogan or a statement that is very valid and is upheld till today, even though all the factors speak against that. It's very clear that Germany has become a very popular immigration destination. Nevertheless, politicians, not just from the Conservative Party, but primarily from the Conservative Party, still insist that Germany is not an immigration destination, kein Einwanderungsland. And how that is tied up with language, I will get to very soon. So to skip right away ahead to post-war Germany, after the disasters of the mid-century, and after Germany and the German state and Germans murdered the own internal other in the Holocaust, after the war, the new constitution that was drawn up in 1949 included a special emphasis on international law and on human rights, and in particular on the right to asylum for political refugees. This was very consciously implemented as part of reparations for, and a part of a repayment for the crimes that they had committed. So Germany does still have, had and still has a very generous asylum